Hello everyone, it's your friendly neighborhood veteran. Today's episode of Ask Stick Vet, I want to talk about advice versus guidance. Today's question comes from veterans taking on the role of mentor in some way in their life. There can be a lot of pressure and anxiety about what to do when working with someone in crisis, or when a suicidal veteran does reach out to you. And many veterans put off taking on the role of mentor because they feel unqualified or ill-prepared to take on that responsibility. It's at this crossroads that I get the question, how do I give someone advice when I don't know all the answers? Firstly, knowing all the answers is not a requirement of being a mentor. In fact, when I learned how to talk down a suicidal, they started by giving me a script, line by line, as if that's how the conversation goes every time. I was tested and I had to memorize or regurgitate the entire script. But then after the test, they taught me that you don't go by the script as you gain experience. And it's okay, as long as your deviation away from this exact script is in being open and authentic and personal, or empathetic. People want to commit suicide for all kinds of reasons, but you don't need to know everything about all the potential reasons in order to help someone. And helping someone in such an extremely disturbing circumstance is really as easy as just being yourself. So let go of thinking you need to know everything. Secondly, helping other people does not involve giving advice. I used to think that becoming a counselor would mean giving advice all the time. But when I started counseling, I learned that isn't how it works at all. I learned the difference between guidance and advice. Counseling was about education and guidance. In fact, in the healthiest setting, it's the patient that's supposed to come up with their treatment plan, whereas the counselor is to educate and keep accountability. And this was an ethical standard in psychology, because at its core, advice is not healthy. Advice is me telling you what I think you should do in your life. It's a bit self-righteous of me to think that I know how you should be you better than you do. So how does guidance work? Guidance is all about brainstorming or assisting someone else to come up with their next tangible step to take action on. First, you listen. Let them tell their story. This is when empathy and patience comes into play, because you don't really need to hear the whole thing, but they do need to say it all. It's an important part of the process. Honestly, the best thing for someone in crisis would actually be for them to have a real conversation with themselves. If they are depressed or anxious, they will verbalize all the bad thoughts that got them to that point. Listening is about giving them space to hear themselves and counter their own thinking. You'll have the urge to counter their negative speech, but listening is about giving them a chance to see their own fallacies. Maybe say, "Do you hear yourself right now?" Give them a chance. But then, if they swing and miss, go ahead and give your counter. A differing perspective is helpful. Then you say your version of the "how do you eat an elephant" metaphor. I like to describe a mountain path, one step at a time, because eating an elephant gives me a weird visualization, and I would rather go hiking in my mind than epically gorge myself. I don't know. Goals are important, but remind them to focus on the basic steps. Keep them small and achievable. Sometimes the healthy thing will seem obvious, like how meditation would help with anxiety, or starting a journal for nightmares, or jogging every day to fight depression. These are not rocket science ideas. It's really just a reminder of the basics. And that's the core of guidance, bringing up the bullet point basics of healthy living. Let them pick, and then keep them accountable to their new tangible mission. Sometimes people just need to hear a few options, and if you're stuck, you have a smartphone. A quick search, what are the healthy things to do when dealing with fill in the blank, or list of healthy habits, and you will have lots of options. But most of the time, the person in crisis does know what they need to do in their life. They just don't want to admit it or face it. Maybe they need to cleanse their addiction. Maybe they need to see a counselor. Maybe they need a discipline of self-care, and doing the dishes and keeping a clean environment is their first challenge. These are hard truths to swallow, and by the time they reach out in crisis, they have already had some deep feeling for a long time that they should do a certain healthy thing about it. So there are 3 tactics I use to figure out what they don't want to admit. The first one I use a lot. I say, I've got 3 questions for you. What can you do? What can you do? What can you do? Posing the question like that, with that inflection and that pausing, it makes the brain process it differently, and they will have a variety of solutions. The second one I put into the comic. Do the next right thing. It's not up to me to decide what's right and wrong in your life, but it is healthiest for you to repeatedly confront yourself with those words. Do the next right thing. Make an alarm and have it go off every hour during the day with the label, do the next right thing. The third requires some imagination. Imagine an alternate dimension, exactly like this one, but with a different version of you. This dimension, you are the healthiest version of yourself. What are the things that this healthy version of you does? How does he get up in the morning? How does he treat other people? Not the best version or the most successful, but healthiest. How does this version of you maintain such a healthy standard? What does it look like? Remember, your greatest tools when someone is reaching out to you are honesty, empathy, and authenticity. And if you can do that, then you have what it takes to help others. Becoming a mentor is an inherent part of maturing as a veteran. But that doesn't make you responsible for someone else's path. Being a mentor is simply holding a lantern. We are providing a light for our brothers and sisters to climb their next step, keeping each other accountable as we climb the red road up this mountain together, one step at a time. What question would you like to ask StickVet? Leave it in the comments, and until next time, this is StickVet, out.